Okay, so kind of a metaphysical question we're going to talk about. My name's Andrew. I'm running WeChat. We do basically contact center software for WeChat, and I try and help out when I can with the startups. So our kind of metaphysical question is learning to be honest with yourself, knowing who you are as an entrepreneur, what kind of companies that you have a passion for running and are good at, not just saying, okay, this is the right startup to run, it's the right time in the market, it's the right technology, I have the right team to do this. Is this the right for you? Is this something that you're passionate about because you're going to be doing it for a few years if everything goes well? Okay, I'm going to start with an anecdote when we almost got this very wrong, or I almost got this very wrong. It was my second company and we were raising money for that, and we ended up taking kind of a different course, and we acquired another team that was funded but not having a lot of success. And it made us think, okay, we've got now a much larger team, we've got money, and we kind of had this blank canvas. And we were thinking, what can we do? And our influences at that time, we were thinking a lot about WeChat. This was 2012. There were no official accounts yet. There was no open platform. But we knew a B2C version of WeChat was going to be a big thing. People had to be able to talk to companies like they talked to their friends in WeChat, because WeChat was changing so much. And so we felt strongly about that. And then we had this investor, a very high-profile investor that came on board since we acquired his company, and that was a very strong influence on us. Not always in a good way, but his kind of passion was for kind of reinventing then this Amex Black Card experience of, you know, you make a phone call and you put the phone down and it's done. You have this concierge that's always at your side. The problem with that was that it was not the founder's personal experience. It was his personal experience. We had been bootstrapping our own company for the last 6 years. We did not have a black card. We did not live this jet set life. We did not pay for convenience. And so we didn't understand this opportunity. But it's really hard. I think maybe a lot of you will find when you're young and you have someone with a lot of gravitas, this high profile investor, who can probably sequence a narrative better than you can, who can explain an opportunity better than you can, to argue back for what you believe in deep in your gut. And so it's hard to have that voice when you're young. I'd say the sequencing was wrong because we raised money and then went in a completely different direction. So we had done no experiments yet. We had already staffed up. We had a big team because we knew we were going to do something with mobile, so we already had mobile developers, but we still had this blank canvas. And so we were really doing this wrong. And the worst thing, I think, is that we didn't stop to think, is this the company we want to run? Because, again, we had these influences that were kind of pulling in different directions. And we didn't think, wait a second, we're moving from a B2B SaaS company into a B2C company that's not only a technology provider, it's also a service provider, because we're going to be running this call center, you know, basically replacing this Amex experience. And that was not what we wanted to do. But it was hard to know that. And so how do you know that? You have to think, okay, am I the right team in the sense, not that we're a good team, that we're just generically good, we have a good developer, but are we specifically good for this opportunity or this problem we're trying to solve? Do we have some kind of special insight? Do we have domain expertise? If you don't have that, you have to acquire it while you're running your startup, which is expensive because you've got a team and you need to be building, not learning. So do you have that already with you, because that's a competitive advantage? On a deeper level, is this something that you're passionate about? You're starting on a marathon. If you're like most startups, if you don't fizzle out in the beginning, you're looking at least a decade of your life doing this. You have to be passionate about that. This has to be something that throughout the course of your startup, this is the thing you'd most like to be doing with your life professionally. You should always be able to answer that. If you can't answer that in the affirmative, that this is the thing I'd most like to be doing right now, it's probably not a good fit for you. And you need to either do a course correction, or you probably need to be thinking about doing something else, because your startup's going to suffer if you don't have that passion. Something that I think you get more importance on later in life, maybe in like your 30s, I started to be thinking more about, does this align with my values? I mean, we're basically making contact center software. It's not that sexy, it's not that exciting, it's not changing the world. So there's other places that you can look to kind of feed that hunger for something that aligns with your values. I find that in my company culture. So if you want to be the way that you lead your team, the way that you treat your team, the way that you build your company culture, it's something I think that can kind of, again, feed that hunger to have something that aligns with your values. I know the next startup I'm going to build is going to be something that is more aligned with my values and making an impact in my life. That's something that I think you get later in life. And yeah, is it the company I want to run? When you start out, you should be thinking that. And if you don't have a lot of personal experience, that can be really hard. If you're in your 20s, you haven't had a lot of professional experience, it's hard to know. It's hard to figure out, like, when your gut is talking to you and you have that voice in the back of your head, if that's fear or if it's something that you really should be listening to because it means something's not right, something's not fitting. And so you need to be extra careful in doing your due diligence when you suss out your opportunities. This is what saved me from making that bad mistake and kind of going that route that our investor wanted us to go, is I sat down with someone that runs call centers, and for like 2 hours over lunch, he told me how miserable it is, of how hard it is to keep people happy on your team that are doing this job, how you're trying to optimize. If you have a 24/7 call center, you don't have 24/7 inbound. You have to be maximizing your outbound, which is telemarketing, which is not anything that I saw myself doing in my lifetime. And so it was so clear to me then as I walked out that lunch that this is not what I want to do with my life. So I talked to my investor. I'm like, we're doing this completely different. We're going to go back to B2B SaaS. We're going to make the technology to do this. And now we have clients that are doing the business that I didn't want to run as far as the service. Okay, so doing your due diligence, that's part of knowing that is what is it going to take for me to get successful? You might be on the first 2 steps of 10 to get to where you want to be. Do you know what all those 10 steps are? And do you like where all those 10 steps take you? Think about that before you get too far along the way. If this is like a mass market play, are you a mass market entrepreneur? Are you going to make a land grab for the China market to be successful? Is that who you are as an entrepreneur? It's not who I am. I'm much more comfortable doing B2B sales, long sales cycle, but you get people locked in and you make them happy over time and you iterate and you iterate. That's where I'm comfortable. If it's not something that you see as your persona, then you either need to find other people on the team that can do that, or you need to do a course correction in what you do as a startup. And yeah, de-risk it as much as you can by running experiments early on. That's the only way to really make sure this is a good fit for you. And there's kind of a, if you're not talking to investors yet, you can do kind of a mind trick and be an investor in your own company, okay? If you were evaluating your own team, is this the best team? If you're, a lot of the startups here, if you're attacking the Chinese market and you're a foreign team, are you the best fit for this team? Are you a B2C entrepreneur or a B2B entrepreneur? What are you comfortable doing? If you put yourself as an investor in your own company, it might help you be more honest in evaluating where are the vulnerabilities. If you have them in the back of your head, you're losing sleep over them, you should be addressing them, not ignoring them. And make sure you don't make a bad decision like I almost did. But thanks.